Okay, here's our video, dividing whole numbers. This time we're going to have remainders in our dividing. And so we're just going to write down what those remainders are. We're not going to do too much with them right now. I just want you guys to know that every time you divide, it does not come out to a whole number answer. Okay, so make sure you write down the title, Divide Whole Numbers with Remainders, and then write down your learning target, which is Students Can Solve Real-World Problems by Dividing Whole Numbers. Okay, if you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the examples. Alright, example number 1, divide whole numbers. So remember, when we divide, the first number represents how much we have, and the second number represents how many groups we're putting into, or how many we want per group. So I'm going to take 743, and I'm going to divide that by 5. 743 goes on the inside, 5 in the outside. You go through one number at a time. 5 goes into 7 one time. So I'm going to put the 1, I put the 5, I subtract. 7 minus 5 is 2, keeping everything in line. So the 1 is over the 7, which is over the 5, which is over the 2. So if you need to spread out your writing a little bit to make sure that you're keeping everything lined up, that's a good suggestion if you're struggling. Okay, I have a 2, so I'm going to bring down the 4. 5 goes into 24. Well, 5 goes into 24 4 times. 5 times 4 is 20. I'm multiplying the 5 times that 4, and that's 20. I'm going to subtract, and that gives me 4. Again, everything is lined up. Now I'm going to bring down the 3. That's going to give me 43. How many times does 5 go into 43? That goes in 8 times, and that is 40. So I'm going to subtract, and I get 3. Since I have no other numbers, and we're not writing them as fractions or as decimals right now, my answer would be 148 with the remainder of 3. There's 3 left over. Okay, and that's how you're going to divide whole numbers. If you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next example. Okay, 496 divided by 12. Remember that fraction bar stands for division. So I'm going to do 496 divided by 12. Okay, 12 goes into 49 4 times. 4 times 12 is 48. I'm going to subtract that. 49 minus 48 is 1. Again, keeping everything lined up. Now 12 did not go into the 4, so if you wanted, you could have put the 0 there. Or, since it doesn't go in, you move on to the 49. That is fine too. You don't have to write that 0 there. I'm going to bring down the 6, and that's going to give me 16. 12 goes into 16 once. 1 times 12 is 12, so I'm going to subtract that, and I get 4. There's no other numbers to bring down, so my answer is 41, remainder 4. Alright, and that's how we're going to divide. That's our answer. Okay, if you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the last example. Alright, in our last example, we have 385 divided by 16. So again, the first number represents how much we have, and we're breaking it into pieces of 16. Okay, so how many times does 16 go into 38? I'm going to show you a mistake that I make, and I'm going to intentionally make a mistake here. I want you to pay attention to let you know that if you're dividing, if you're not getting it right, or you haven't gone into it enough times. If I didn't know how many times 16 went into 38, and I said, I'm just going to do once, and I do 1, and I subtract, and I get 8 minus 6 is 2, 3 minus 1 is 2, and I have 22 left over. If this number that we have down here is larger than that number, then you have made a mistake. Then it is not 1. Okay, so when you are done, before you bring down the other number, after the subtraction step, if your number is greater than the original number, then it can go in more times. And that's just a clue you need to look for. Okay, 16 does go in more than once. It goes in twice. 16 times 2 is 32. So I'm going to subtract that, and I get 6. 6 is less than 16. So that's something that you need to look for when you're dividing. Now I can bring down the 5, and I have 65. How many times does 16 go into 65? Well, I know 16 goes into 65 4 times, and that is 64. Okay, now some of you might struggle with that. You might not know that off the top of your head. It is okay off to the side. Whoop. It's okay off to the side to do some work. All right, 16 times 3. If you're not sure, do your multiplication. That's 18. Carry the 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. Then try 16 times 4. And when you do that, you get 24. Put the 4, carry the 2, 4 plus 2 is 6. 64. Okay, now I know that I'm right there. Okay, if I wasn't sure, I could try times 5. So it's okay to do some side work to try to help. Alright, now back to my problem. 16 times 4 is 64. When I subtract those, I get 1. So my answer is 24, remainder 1. And that is how you are going to divide. Okay, if you have any questions or need to watch anything again, go ahead and rewind it and pause when you need to. Make sure you have all these notes written down. Otherwise, have a great night, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.